We're going to talk about the Zapruder film. The amazing thing about the Zapruder film, and I would preface this by saying, other people filmed in Dealey Plaza that day, and I'm going to show you a video tomorrow on other films that were taken. However, this film, known as the Zapruder film, was the only film that captured the entire assassination of President Kennedy, the only one. And it was done by a dress manufacturer by the name of Abraham Zapruder, thus the name. So the only full recording of the assassination of President Kennedy in Dealey Plaza on November 22nd, 1963 was filmed by Abraham Zapruder. And he was a local dress manufacturer, and his office was very close to Dealey Plaza. His office was very close. Now it's kind of an interesting story because he showed up to work that day and he didn't bring his movie camera. And his assistant, Marilyn Sitzman, asked him if he was going to go down and see the president, because they knew the route. Are you going to go down and see the presidential motorcade? And he said yes, and she said, well, where's your camera? Oh, I decided not to bring it. She convinced him to go home and get that camera because she thought he should film it so that his children and grandchildren could watch it someday on the day that the president came to Dallas. Isn't that incredible? If she doesn't talk him into going back home earlier in the morning, we don't have the Zapruder film. So it's just kind of a crazy thing. So the morning of November 22nd, 1963, Abraham Zapruder comes to work. He doesn't have his camera. Marilyn Sitzman, his assistant, talks him into going and getting it. He comes back and then invites her to go with him into Dealey Plaza to see the president. And he's got his camera. Well, he gets to Dealey Plaza, and he gets kind of behind that area we talked about as a grassy knoll, and you'll see it on video in a minute. And there's a couple of probably 3 foot by 3 foot, about 4 foot high cement platforms that are part of the architecture on Elm Street. And he decides to climb up on top of one and film the assassination. So he climbs up as if I were on there, and you can see the Jfka cut out, and he's got an angle like this here. And he brings this, not this exact camera, but this exact camera, a Bell & Howell Zoom-matic. And he is standing, and he is simply looking through this little tiny eye hole here and filming. Now if you look at this camera, it opens up and it has film in it. This film is running through just like it is, and I'll pass it around to you in a minute. But it's simply, this is the film. This would turn out to be the Zapruder film in his camera, was this film. Okay, and you close this up, and then this thing, please don't wind this when you get it, but this is how you wind your film in and out, and then there's a button here that says stop and run and even slow motion. So he is standing on this 4 foot cement block, and he is looking at the turn of Houston and Elm, and he simply starts filming, which you'll see. Now, Marilyn Sitzman got up on top of this platform as well because Abraham Zapruder suffered from vertigo. Does anybody know what vertigo is?
Is it when you get to like higher than
You lose your balance. And so she stood behind him and watched, so she's seeing the same thing, only not in the lens, providing, you know, if he started to tip, she would probably grab him and keep him from falling off. But she and he were both on top of this, filming this particular assassination. Well, as the president's limousine approached him on Elm Street, he began to film what turned out to be the entire assassination. And after he captured this, he was so shaken of what he had seen through that viewfinder that he went back to his office and kind of locked himself in his office and started crying, to be quite honest with you. He had witnessed one of the most horrific things you could imagine. Well, pretty soon the Secret Service figures out that this man that was standing on top of the cement block filmed the assassination. So Forrest Sorrells a Secret Service agent goes over to Zapruder's office and requests the film from him. He wants to take that film and get it developed for obvious reasons. He wants to know what happened, right? This is after the assassination when everything's crazy. They have a heck of a time getting that thing developed. They try to take it to a couple different places, and they find out that only Kodak could develop the film, so they go to the Kodak factory, so to speak, and they make 3 copies of this film. 3 copies. Where do those 3 copies go? Who gets a copy of the film? FBI,
CIA.
Secret Service, and Zapruder gets a copy along with the original back. Okay? So 3 copies are made of this film. 1 copy is given to the FBI, another copy is given to the Secret Service, and another copy is given to Zapruder along with the original back. It's his film. He owns it. Well, when the media hears about this film, Zapruder knows that somebody's going to want to purchase both the print rights, which means you can print it in your newspaper or your magazine, and the motion picture rights that you have the right to view it. And he knows that's coming. So he meets with the first media outlet that requests a meeting, and that just happened to be Life magazine. Life magazine. And the publisher of Life magazine, C.D. Jackson, sends a guy, you don't have to write this guy's name down, but a guy by the name of Richard Stoley to go and negotiate what Zapruder will want for the print rights and the motion picture rights. Just so you know, they bought the print rights first, and then Jackson decided that he wanted the motion picture rights too, so they made 2 separate deals. But in essence, what Zapruder got for the allowing Life to have the print rights and the motion picture rights, although he still owns the film, was $150,000, which would be about $1.2 million in today's money. So he gets a pretty hefty bit of money, and he allows Life magazine to have both the print rights and the motion picture rights. Both. Now they did 2 separate deals. I just won't bore you with those details. He got so much for the print rights, and then the guy said, well, go, let's get the motion picture rights too, and he sent Stoley back and whatever. $150,000 in those days money, about $1.2 million today.
So if he never would have sold his rights or anything, would we ever see those films today?
Oh. Well, the Secret Service and the FBI would have seen them, but they wouldn't have had the ability to release them. Now here's what's really odd about this. So just 2 days later, on November 24th, C.D. Jackson decides to sit down and watch this film because he's got the motion picture rights. And after seeing this horrific scene, he puts it away, and the American people don't see it until 1975. He doesn't release it to the public until 1975, 12 years later, before the American public gets to see this. Now, I want to make a point that compares to Andrew Jackson, which seems kind of, you're thinking, where's this guy going? Andrew Jackson, for many, many years after his death, was considered a wonderful president, in the top 5 or 6. But today's society is trying to sanitize history, right? And trying to judge people on today's values, and now Jackson is dropped because of his treatment of Indians and his treatment of slaves, or not treatment, but having slaves, etc. So, I just want to make a point. The Warren Commission did their investigation and completed that by 1964, and I think they did as good as they could have done with the evidence and the technology they had at the time. But now we try to sanitize history, and we try to say, well, God, they did a bad job, there must have been conspiracies, they didn't pick this up, they didn't pick that up, because we're judging on what we can do now. Does that make sense? So the Warren Commission maybe didn't get it all right, okay? And I'm going to give you a couple examples of things that have happened in modern times in looking at the film now that makes people think that maybe the Warren Commission isn't correct in their sequence of shots. And I'll be honest with you, I don't believe the sequence of shots that the Warren Commission gave in 64 are the right ones. And I'll tell you why in a minute. Now here's two scenarios. First one's a little bit slippery, but I think it makes sense. According to witnesses, after the first shot, President Kennedy said, "My God, I'm hit." Supposedly that's what he said. Now, if he was hit with that first shot through the back and through the windpipe and out the neck, he wouldn't be able to speak. So what that says is the first, in this scenario, people are saying that the first shot missed. Now what's your first thought there? Well, if it missed, why do you say it? That's a very good question. People that are into this a little bit think that Kennedy was hit by probably a bullet fragment. That he was a little paranoid about assassination. He talked about it all the time. The morning in Fort Worth in his hotel room before he went down to speak at the parking lot prior to his Chamber of Commerce speech, he said to Lawrence O'Brien, when he looked down onto the parking lot, he said, "Boy, if somebody wanted to get you, they sure could." He said many times, if somebody wants to trade their life for mine, I have no safety as from an assassin. All presidents, I think, have to think about. But I think in this scenario, and I'm not saying it's right, that their thought process is he got hit with a bullet fragment, and because he had that in his mind, he said, "My God, I'm hit." I don't know. So then the second shot in this scenario would have put the bullet through both, and the third one would have hit him in the head. But this is the more compelling one for me. John Connally lived, did he not? And obviously was interviewed at the time, and I'd hate to guess how many times he was asked or interviewed about this from the time of the assassination until the time that he died. And in that time, after serving as governor, he also served as Secretary of the Treasury for a while, which means you're ahead of what organization? The Secret Service. That's who you are the boss of. And so he requested all the records and came with the conclusion that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. That's not where I'm going. Where I'm going is this. When he was interviewed from day one to the day he died, he said he heard the first shot. And he said after hearing the first shot, he knew it was a gunfire because he had been a hunter. And he said that he turned to his left and then started to turn to his right to look at the president when he was hit in the back with the force that knocked him silly. So Connally said from day one, I was not hit with the first shot. Connally believed that Kennedy was shot with the first shot. He was shot with the second shot. Kennedy then in the head with the third shot. That's what he believed. We'll never know, kiddos, what really happened.
So no pain to concrete at all then?
What's that? I think James Tagg, good question, could have gotten nicked by a bullet fragment from somewhere because he's right in the line of fire. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know. We'll never know.
Wait,
Yeah.
so in this one, he said he heard the first gunshot and then the second one hit him,
That's
and
what
the
he-
third one hit Kennedy in the head.
That's what he's saying.
So the first one did miss?
No,
Is what he's saying?
he's saying the first one hit Kennedy and the back went out his throat.
Oh, and then he was
Second
hit by
one
the second.
hit him. Third one hit Kennedy. That's what he believes. We'll never know. I think without question there was 3 shots. I think without question Lee Harvey Oswald shot at least 2 of them. Now there's a new thing I'm going to show you a little bit later that has come out just recently about the possibility of the Secret Service agent behind him who did grab his AR-15 with them at the first shot, and when they excelled, there's some evidence that might make you think that he accidentally discharged and hit the president in the head. Okay, there's some talk on that. It might be kind of
Like, how fast were the shots? Like,
6
how-
seconds.
6
From
seconds.
first, that's a good question. From first shot to last shot, 6 seconds.
Because you would think that they would have enough time to react to
And
the
like
first
kneel
shot.
down.
Like if I heard a
or
shot, I would like
something.
saw.
I think it's easy to say
I'm not-
that in
yeah,
6
I'm not-
seconds.
I don't
Yeah.
shoot.
Who
like,
reacted?
The,
Clint Hill.
Yeah.
He's the only one. I mean, I'm going to show you, I gave you a picture that we'll point to in a minute in which you can see the Secret Service agents turn and look back over there. That's
How
a,
did he get the shots off in 6 seconds? Like, don't you have to refocus your shot and even like calm down as a shooter? It's hard, man.
It's not like that.
Not with a scope.
Good at bolt action.
So, Mr. Irvin,
this is how sick I am. I have John F. Kennedy silhouette. Maybe hold that down for me here. All right, let me answer her question. It's a good question. Let me see if I got the right one here.
Is that used?
Blake Kroger Bobby Bryant, Sean Mortimer, and I went out on the gun range right out here, and we fired. I have a 6.5 Mannlicher Carcano, the same rifle, exact. I'll bring it and show it to you. We went out and shot at 100 yards. This shot was 88. 100 yards. 2 out of 3, and you can, of these two boys, hit the target who've never shot the gun before. Okay? 2 of the 3. That would be Bobby and Mortimer. Here's Blake Kroger and I. Blake is blue, 1, 2, 3. Mr. Durr is yellow, 1, 2, 3. I wasn't as good a shot. But it obviously, if 4 knuckleheads can go out on the range and shoot, and we didn't take our time, Carl, that's a great question. We shot in 6 seconds, as fast as we could shoot. Remember, the first bullet's in the gun.
Right.
So bang, bang, bang. Not that difficult to get him off.
It really isn't, like, doesn't he have to adjust back up to
Well,
his shot?
Well,
Moving hard.
listen, these are all great questions. When we get into where he was and what his position was and what his gun was resting on, you'll get a better idea.
Well, that and a motorcade, Harlan, you shot like.
Now, here's Ryland. Now listen, I can see where Ryland's going. Ryland's thinking it's moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, but where's it moving? Straight away from it.
No,
Straight
that's what
away.
Josh said. And motorcades don't go fast.
No, he was gonna let him out
Yeah,
now.
he's going slow for the people
Yeah.
to
Say
see.
the Secret Service agent did discharge the bullets. Who would have been the one that actually, if it did happen, who would have been the one who discharged it?
We'll get into all that later. That's a later topic. So we're not gonna get too crazy on conspiracy. We're gonna concentrate on this. But the point is, there's no question in my mind, Lee Harvey Oswald was a trained Marine. I mean, he wasn't the greatest Marine, but he wasn't the greatest Marine. He was really awful. But anyway, we'll tell you that story too. But you get 3 guys that have never fired the weapon before that can go out at 100 yards and hit 2 out of 3 in the target. I mean, it can certainly be done. Yeah. All right, now, a couple things here I want to talk about. We're going to show you this video. And I want you to key into this. It's not pretty. So we're going to see lots of different angles, and I'm going to stop it many times. But I am going to let you watch it the first time through without interruption. And then I'm going to stop it, and we're going to see where we think Kennedy was hit and put some things together. I think you will enjoy it. As much as you can enjoy such a thing.
How much is the film worth now?
Oh, I don't even know. Well, I don't think you can put a value on it.
Okay, so there's also another conspiracy.
I don't want to hear any more conspiracy. We'll get to that. Yes.
Recruiter still have the original film?
His family had it. Yeah. Okay, lights. Now listen. I want you to key in and pay attention. This vantage point is Abraham Zapruder on top of that 4-footed block taking this film. He has no idea what he's about to do. Here we go. Shh.
This is the first of the digital versions and is shown without the images between the sprocket holes.
Okay, just one thing. This is Houston on to Elm. This is the 11-mile-an-hour turn. Look at all the people. Seems like a lot. It had thinned down considerably. And when you get into Daly Plaza, down in this area down here, to the right of this screen, you'll see very few people. They are about to get on the interstate.
The framing is the standard format.
This is what Zapruder saw at the time.
Jackie's crazy.
Well, that's a reaction of shock. You're
This
right,
is a
Ryland. You're
replay
right,
of the
Ryland.
standard
Crazy
format
reaction.
version, this time in slow
Okay,
motion.
here's slow motion. Now we're going to try to pick some things up. What do you notice hinders what happened? The sign. Very unfortunate historically that this sign right here was right in the way of his view. Because what's going to happen here is, I'm going to stop this. You're going to see the president. He's waving, and when he goes behind the sign, everything's fine. As soon as he comes out, both hands to his throat. So we don't really see the first shot because it's behind the sign, which is just part of unfortunate history. See the president right here? He's starting to wave. See him waving right here? We'll see more, but it's kind of interesting. Okay, he goes behind the sign. All of a sudden we don't have any idea what's happened. See if you can pick up what happens when he comes out. See his hands? Going right up to his throat without question. The question here is, Governor Connolly hit yet? He's looking straight ahead and he's got his Stetson in his right hand, in which the wrist that was fractured, right? So in my opinion, at this point, he's not hit. Okay, we'll watch the rest and try to figure out when he is hit. We'll get to some better pictures later.
Yeah, he did look.
Look how close Jackie's head's to his.
His school is literally open.
See Clint Hill coming up?
Oh, he just drops. It's like not even.
The images between the sprocket holes could only be seen on slides of the
Okay, now what they're saying here is in later technology they opened up the area between the sprocket holes where the film fits into the camera.
original film. This is the first time that those images can be seen as part of a
See if you
motion
notice
sequence.
anything odd right on the other
Zapruder
side of the sign.
frame numbers are also displayed
Has
for
nothing
research
to do with the
purposes.
motorcade itself. See if you see something odd. This made conspiracy theorists go crazy. See anything odd there?
People clapping.
No, what do you see by the sign? What do you see on the right side of the sign?